On the surface, some video game stories may seem pretty straightforward. Dive a little deeper and you find some smart stories, deep plot twists, and story elements you never even realized were there. Before you watch, tap the subscribe button. You'll join our notification squad and be the first to know of new content. Braid, one of the more classic video game themes, involves heroes traveling to rescue a princess. It started with Mario, continued with The Legend of Zelda, and has been used in countless other games as the main storyline. In the 2008 game Braid, it looked like essentially the same type of story on the surface. A character named Tim attempts to rescue his girlfriend from a horrible monster. This is great motivation to start the side-scrolling game and get through levels, but as the player moves on, a lot of bombshells are released. Younger players probably have trouble processing that the main character Tim is actually the monster the princess is hiding from. The game often alludes to a terrible mistake Tim made in the past. There are multiple references to abusive relationships, coping with mistakes, and going through changes. Braid is actually a lot deeper than fans ever expected and completely transforms the traditional Mario story. As you get through the various levels in the game, you'll start traveling through time and seeing how the various events unfolded. The creators purposely left a lot of ambiguity to the final moments of the game, allowing players to come up with their own theories and ideas for what actually happened. The Binding of Isaac. Originally released in 2011, The Binding of Isaac has become a big hit for computer gamers. Featuring similar elements to the original Legend of Zelda, Isaac travels through multiple dungeons and is up against a slew of creepy monsters. On the surface, most players see it as a fun adventure, but the story's actually much deeper. Isaac has a good reason for escaping out into the world and going up against these monsters. He's actually trying to escape his own evil mother at home. The evil mother story has a lot of ties to religious beliefs, having religious ideals being forced upon you, and finding ways to escape and follow your own personal path. The creators of the game used a lot of their own personal stories to help develop the story and create an experience gamers could relate to. The result is not only a fun game, but it's something players can reflect on and apply to their own personal lives. An advanced version of the game, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, adds even more to the story and dives deeper into the religious symbolism in all of the characters. Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition is a horror survival game that packs in the mystery with a lot of twists, eerie moments, and scary scenes. As you progress through the game, it seems like there are a lot of random events and things added just to create false scares. By the time you reach the conclusion of the game, the whodunit mystery is solved, but it's also worth looking back at everything you accomplished to discover more. Every element of the game is connected somehow. Irrelevant scenes are actually really important for determining who's guilty, who's innocent, and the secrets they hide. The backstory for Detective York is actually incredibly involved and creates a dramatic core for the game that's full of twists. You learn who Zack really is and how the unseen character works so well in the plot. Playing through Deadly Premonition a second time allows players to truly see how much work went into the story and gameplay. The actual game rivals a lot of psychological horror films and could have been turned into a successful feature film rather than just a video game. Grand Theft Auto 4. When it comes to creating compelling drama, the Grand Theft Auto series knows how to execute it well. During the times when you're not randomly causing chaos or being chased down by the police, you can get involved in some detailed missions and side stories all around the large city. One of the best entries in the franchise story-wise was Grand Theft Auto 4. The game follows the character of Nico and his revenge plot against a gangster who terrorized him. While the main plot of the game has a lot of depth and great storytelling, there's much more to it. Nico's story is a great example of immigration and the American dream. It showcases the struggle immigrants deal with in the United States and how it can be extremely hard to establish yourself, create a life away from crime, and get out of poverty. The game smartly does this through character choices, cutscenes, and detailed dialogue tracks that are sprinkled throughout the game. Even though the game was released in 2008, the immigration storylines are now more relevant than ever and can resonate with a lot of gamers. The Stanley Parable. One of the more interesting video games out there is the Stanley Parable. In the game, players explore an abandoned office building as they make decisions for the character in first-person view. A narrator guides them along the way, but players also have the option of going against the narrator's choices. What initially comes off as a mystery form of interactive fiction actually has a much deeper element to it. The whole game itself is actually a metaphor for gaming as a whole. When video games first came out, players were instructed to follow a set path from start to finish. While many players followed this path, others tried to find their own shortcuts and various ways around. Just think about the hidden warp pipes found in the original Super Mario Bros. The Stanley Parable is a great exploration on the mind and psychology of gamers. Will you listen to the narrator? Will you purposely rebel against him? Will your curiosity lead to a whole different direction? The choice is truly yours, and it's what makes the game so brilliant. Many players will wonder if they made the right choice, only to realize that there is no right choice, and this is why video games can be so frustrating. Manhunt. There have been many violent video games, but nothing compared to the 2003 release of Manhunt. The ultra-violent video game featured all kinds of deaths, weapons, and unique ways to kill. With weapons like plastic bags, crowbars, and guns, there were dozens of ways to kill off enemies. While the game may seem like a mindless killing spree similar to horror films like Saw, the deeper story within Manhunt actually involves the psychology and people playing the game. It's entirely possible to get through a majority of the Manhunt levels without actually killing anyone. Using stealth moves, players have the ability to sneak through areas, avoiding killing off enemies, and reaching goals to successfully get to the end of a scene. This is what makes the game so smart. It's only as violent as the player wants it to be. Think suffocating a person with a plastic bag is too graphic and violent? There's no reason for you to actually perform the move in the game. The creators of the game want the players to reflect on how far they'll actually go to dispose of enemies to get through the game. Papers, Please. Papers, Please seems like a basic concept for a game, but it's actually very rich in moral dilemmas. The game has odd plots and features. Players take the role of a border patrol officer in a fictional country. The whole concept of the game is to process immigration papers and decide who can enter the country legally and have their passports, visas, and other papers approved. The better you do at your job, the more food and money you'll achieve at the end of each workday. This is where the game gets a little tricky. Unlike other simulation games where you try to accumulate as much money as possible, Papers, Please adds a little more to the challenge. In some cases, you may not earn money if you do not let enough people through. In other cases, you can let the wrong people through and get fined for it. This creates a tricky moral balance where you must judge and be the ultimate decision maker for the citizens trying to enter the country. It really makes you reflect on your personal views of the world, how you observe other people, and the empathy you have for various situations. Twisted Metal Black. The Twisted Metal series is all about unique cars, awesome games, and destroying everything in sight. While the first couple of games in the series use these unique designs, the PS2 game Twisted Metal Black really breaks down the characters you've grown to love. Really following the stories can showcase how black the game really is. A majority of the characters have lived horrible lives. One example is Dollface, a girl who grew up in a terrible household and then had a mask permanently attached to her face. There's also the character of Axel. The man was forcibly attached between two giant wheels by his father, a psychopath with crazy visions. If Axel gets detached from the wheels, then he loses all of his limbs along with it. There are a lot of dark backstories featured throughout these games that really make you feel for the characters and root for them to be victorious in the Twisted Metal tournament. These stories add a lot more to the game and make it feel more important than just a crazy form of destruction derby. Tekken. While playing Tekken, you can enjoy a fighting game at its finest. The original games were released at a time when other fighting titles like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were still extremely popular. While each new sequel of Street Fighter essentially featured the same characters and combat system, Tekken offered slightly deeper storytelling. Each game features a different hero and a whole new cast of characters to play against. This is because each new sequel continues an ever-growing story involving the King of the Iron Fist tournament and a lot of varied characters. The rich stories involve pregnancy, family drama, and a lot of different angles that are more than just fighting. After playing each game, you truly get to know the characters, their everyday lives, and their reasons for fighting in the King of the Iron Fist tournament. Each game covers multiple years of time and really showcases how the world of Tekken has evolved. Characters like Jun Kazama have quit fighting to have a child, and the namesakes of other characters grow up to fight on and represent their family. You really have to play through the games to follow the true depth of the story. Super Mario Sunshine. If you've played one Mario game, then you've essentially experienced all the same plots. Even though she should have hired Secret Service years ago, Princess Peach is constantly finding herself kidnapped and taken away. It's typically up to Mario to save the princess and defeat Bowser at the end of the game. While Super Mario Sunshine includes a Princess Peach kidnapping, it's not because Bowser just wants to ruin Mario's day. The kidnapping in Super Mario Sunshine is actually planned by Bowser Jr. It's revealed through cutscenes that Jr. thinks that Princess Peach is actually his mother after being raised solely by Bowser. This results in some pretty compelling cutscenes that touch on single parents raising their children and the real struggle that many kids go through when they have only one parent in their life. Even though the game is not the best, it has the deepest plot and message ever seen in the Mario universe. A lot of substance is added to the game, and you actually end up feeling bad for Bowser Jr. in his confused state. It makes you wish that more Mario games would add some extra plot details like this. Well, there you have it. Are there any games that we missed? Let us know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to The Gamer on YouTube so you can stay up to date with all of our awesome videos.